All right, guys, we're waiting for everybody to come in. We'll get kicked off here in just a minute. This might even be the first time some of us have seen each other. Hey, it's Coach Corn in the house. I see Lori's here, Amber's here, inviting the whole group. There's Laura. What's up?
Hi. Morning.
Cool. All right, well, I know people are going to be kind of jumping in as we get going, and this presentation is about a little longer than an hour and 15 minutes if I fly. So actually, I'm going through this with you guys for one main reason, is to give you some great content and information and discussion pieces to help you think of another way to talk to your realtor partners. However, there is one other piece that I want to layer in here. I'm actually sharing all this information with you guys as well, because this is how you can get 100 transactions extra a year from a lot of what we're talking about. Even though I say the word real estate agent through here or anything regarding your realtors, you could just swap it out for mortgage and it's 95% same content. So I think the mind shift is just going to your database of people, like we expect the realtors to go to their database of people and come bring the loans to you. You've got the leverage here where you can go to your database of people, the same people that I'm going to talk about today, to actually have complete 100% control of your mortgage business. And if you do that way, you'll be creating enough business that you can actually bring those referrals back to your realtor partners. And then the other part I'm going to tell you is your realtor partners are not doing this stuff. Like, this is so simple that nobody gets it. And it is, just keep it simple when you hear it. And as you're talking to realtors, it's the main thing, like on the numbers, I'll kind of jump in a lot of times. This is the number you want to share with them and things like that. So any questions about anything before I take off 1,000 miles an hour and start running through, or are you guys just sitting back ready to absorb?
I'm ready to absorb.
All right, cool. See if I got the right screen here. Should have it. All right, cool. So let me see here. Let me make sure. There we go. Now you guys are seeing my screen right now, the Sell Homes in Any Market, right? All right, I'm going to try and pay attention to the chat over here on the side window so you can chat some stuff. But another good thing that it'll pop up on my screen is if you raise your hand. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with Zoom for the most part. So if you raise your hand, I think it'll flash it on the screen that I'm reading off of. And then I'll just pause out and let you go ahead and unmute and ask any questions, kind of stop me anywhere along the way. All right, so I'm going to crank through this just like we did. We just went to Columbus and did this for one of the market leaders there, and the Movement Mortgage office is there. So just know that there is, between Agent Marketing Academy and now this 100 Homes in Any Market, that all the coaches went through this and they love this message and this program. It probably will become another kind of Agent Marketing Academy type class for you guys to present. If you get that opportunity, we can do shorter versions. And if you think you can put 100 to 150 realtors in a room, we can come to your market and get you guys. I mean, the way it's structured is just like the AMA class. There's a survey at the end, and we ask very first question, would you at least consider having coffee with the person that got you here today? Things like that. And do you have somebody that you're working with? So there's some really cool stuff. They just did one. It was in South Carolina somewhere, $12 million worth of business generated off of 41. I will meet with the loan officer, or I have somebody that I could refer. And so anyway, it's kind of cool when we do the live event too. If you guys have any questions about that, you can let me know. All right, so I'm gonna roll and just kind of book it through here and try and just get you guys the overview of the information. And then, you can call me anytime outside of this if you want more information or clarity on anything. And then obviously in our one-on-one coaching calls, if you see how this might fit specifically in something you're doing, we can cover it there. So we call it the 100 Homes in Any Market. And there's a book out there, E-Myth. E-M-Y-T-H, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, if you want to write that down. And you might have a piece of paper just to write down notes and things that you have questions about as well. But Michael Gerber wrote E-Myth, Why Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And I read that book over 25 years ago, and I read it cover to cover, which I don't read every book cover to cover. I'm a skimmer. But I read that book cover to cover probably half a dozen times or so until I just started putting that book into action. And he basically talks about a pie owner, a lady that has a bakery. She made an awesome pie. Everybody said, you should start a bakery. But she sucked at business. She didn't know how to manage money. She didn't know how to manage the process. She got employees. They didn't work out. She was working 24/7, coming in at 4 a.m. and working till 7 o'clock at night just to make a profit. Might sound like some of you in your business right now, right? So you are a small business. So E-Myth is an amazing book. And I had some stuff happen. I'll go through it here in a second. But in the presentation, I say we're going to apply the principles of E-Myth to your real estate business, or say your mortgage business, right? So I read that book, I applied the systems, and I ended up writing E-Myth Real Estate Agent with Michael Gerber. So in the E-Myth Real Estate Agent, we'll kind of highlight a couple of the chapters in the book and kind of how that applies to your business, because there's everything from money, people, employees, systems, all kinds of stuff that are in the E-Myth. And I break down all those systems through each chapter. Michael writes a chapter on E-Myth principles, and then I wrote how I applied that to my business. So actually this book, just for you guys, so you know, is that you could read this, take the word real estate agent out, and probably use just about all of this in your business as well. So in the beginning, we talk about the story and how this all came up. And the reason why I share this stuff is because most people, when they're successful in business, and most of the agents that are sitting in the room, you guys can have, mortgage and real estate agents can have a pretty comfortable life. I mean, we can make this industry, we can make really good jack and not totally kill ourselves. And we're not clocking in and we're tied to somebody. We're not an employee. I mean, we can get pretty comfortable pretty quick where we are. So it's about getting out of that comfort zone. And one of the stories that I share with people is just that when things look good and comfortable, if they're not consistent, persistent, and predictable, that can change when the market changes. And some of you may have gone through that. So I share a story that this happened to me on March 13th in 2015. This is a car accident on a freeway in Kansas City. And my wife and my business partner of 20 years was going to pick up a client, an elderly client, to take her to a closing because she didn't have any family in Kansas City. So she was going to pick her up. And she was coming off this entrance ramp right here. And something happened. I think she got clipped by a car or something. And she spun around and took a head-on collision with the white van there that you see. So she was in a little Nissan Juke, and it's a little small car. They're like a go-kart. Well, the good news is that after a head-on collision and all of that, the car did keep her alive. The car was totaled. She lived through the incident. The dash had pushed her leg back through her hip socket, shattered her hip. She's 42 in this picture, right? This March 13th, which by the way, was a Friday the 13th, just like today. So let's hope this system doesn't crash while I'm going through this stuff, right? So she survived the accident. She was on crutches for 12 weeks to get through the hip surgery and all of that. So after she got off crutches, we were kind of plugging her back into life. And 13 weeks after the accident, so a week after being off the crutches, she decided it was time to drive again. So we went and bought 2 new Jeeps. And so we had her plugged into the driving. The next week went by, we were plugging her back into work, and she basically ran the whole back end of our office. As you guys know, I'm like your typical realtor. When you're coaching with me and stuff, I'm bouncing, I'm talking fast, I'm all over the place. So I go out and I create the chaos in the business, and then she keeps me organized, right? So, but what happened on the 14th week after the accident, 2 weeks after getting off crutches, Sonia was sleeping one night, and she had trouble sleeping. So she was snoring and sleeping. And I kind of let her sleep till about 10 o'clock. And then I tried to wake her up, and she didn't wake up. And at that moment, I mean, of course, her lips were turning blue. So we didn't know what was up, but she was like snoring, but she would not respond to anything. Called 911. They got her stabilized, got her into the ambulance. Everything seemed kind of like it was probably just something weird. Nothing bad ever happens to me. Have you ever said that before? Nothing bad is going to happen. So anyway, they get her in the ambulance. Well, what happened is they lost her for about 4 minutes in the ambulance. We got a 5-minute ride to the hospital. They get her back. They get her into ER. ER loses her again for about another 4 minutes. So there's something I've always heard, from 6 to 10 minutes of your brain without oxygen, it dies. And during that 8 minutes, enough of her brain died that she was in a coma. And that was kind of the point. Actually, during that coma stage, they, put the temperature on, cooled her body down, stopped any more damage from happening. But at that point, I had to get her somewhere where they could do something about it. So I was asking the doctors, where would you take your wife if she had brain injury? And it was an anoxic brain injury. So there was a lack of oxygen in her. She was really in a truly vegetative state, not like where you would hear of somebody falling on their head and being unconscious or in a coma for a while. She was in a coma because her brain had died and it was seizing constantly. So I took her to Lincoln, Nebraska, about 3 hours away. And I was there every day with the nodes on her head, and they're trying to figure out different mixes of medicine, trying to get the brain to slow down. I mean, they took her into rehab and had her doing things with her body, but she really wasn't even there. So weird stuff. That was 5 months of her being in a coma. And unfortunately in November, well, actually it was before November, after that 5 months, we weren't going to get her back. So I had to let her go. And of course, that's the hardest decision in the world anybody would have to do, because her body was alive. She just had a trach because she couldn't swallow being in the coma. So they had to do that, but she wasn't on life support or anything. So that one will mess with your mind. But what I brought out of that is, during that 5 months that I was gone out of my business. So I'm Brad Coyne, the realtor. I have one assistant at that time and one showing agent, a girl that was just showing houses for us. That was my team, right? And we're selling 100 homes a year. So at that 5 months that I was gone and I was the listing agent, nobody to replace me, except the showing agent. She probably could have, did it, but we're talking a high volume, right? And she was still showing properties. So during that 5 months, I would come back one night a week to go on my listing appointments that they would stack up for that one night. And I would drive back 3 hours to Lincoln. During that 5 months, with an assistant and a showing agent, we sold 97 homes. So what I'm showing you today and sharing with you is that there's 100 transactions sitting right in front of you, all of us right now. And I'm going to show you where those are as we get through. But the point I need to make sure you get today for the rest of the session is, we've got to get out of your comfort zone. Like, there's no way, like, I've had high level coaches that push me and push me and push me. And I've had, accountability partners, and I've had other top agents that I shadow with and mastermind with. And it's all that stuff. Those people keep pushing you to keep doing better and better and better. So when I got out of my comfort zone, it's like, here's comfort zone. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone. Life is good. The bank account looks good. You're paying your bills on time. You got the next 2-3 months in the bank, right? After COVID, it's almost like you might want to have 12 months worth of expenses in the bank and anything unexpected in the bank, just because it's kind of a wake-up call, right? So I was out of my comfort zone all the time. I kept getting pushed out of it by the people I was hanging around. So when something bad happens to you, it sucks you down to comfortable. And the reason why I sold 97 homes during that 5 months of not being in my business is because we were comfortable again. I don't remember how my house payment got paid, how my car payment got paid, none of utilities. I mean, my daughter was living at home by herself. She's in high school, and we had everything paid because we were way above our comfort zone it just always stayed there. Not meaning I have money piling up in the bank, but just always had it coming in and knew it would come in. And I built systems to sell 100 homes a year, every year, no matter what, right? So those systems were running my business and sold those 97 homes because I wasn't there. And it sucked me to comfortable. What I see so many people do when I'm coaching is that they are at comfortable and really.
The webinar. I'm on mute.
Oh, we might have a live mic there. Whoever just, you're unmuted.
It literally matches
Give
perfect.
them a second, see if they can figure it out.
They're awesome. Will you set them on?
This was the part I didn't plan on, was managing it from this side. Let me see. There we go. All right, I think I got it. All right, so when you're comfortable and something bad happens to you, it sucks you down to uncomfortable. And so the worst thing that anybody could ever have happen to them is be sitting in an uncomfortable spot. You're trying to focus on helping somebody, helping a family member get through something, and you don't know how your bills are going to get paid, or you don't know what's going to happen to your business, and you have to, apply for help and, all that stuff. See, I had one of the charity organizations call me and say, we want to get you some money. And I was able to say, that means so much to me. But honestly, my house payment is made. This was like a month after this was going on. My house payment's made. I've got next month in the bank. My car payments are made. I'd rather you keep that money for somebody who really might need it. And to be able to say that was a lot for me. So get out of your comfort zone. Now, here's the point I want to make. When you get out of your comfort zone and you stay out of your comfort zone and bad things happen and it sucks you down to comfortable, and then you go back to getting out of your comfort zone, it allows you to go back to life. I mean, if any of you can even imagine losing a spouse, and I think it's just one notch above a child, they're both pretty close. And a parent is right there with it too, because my current wife, if I had just given in to what I really wanted to do, was just like, I mean, you lose a spouse after 20 years and it's your business partner and you've been like with each other 20 years. I mean, I could have just curled up and said, I give up. I mean, it's just like, I'll live life and just get through and do what I need to do. And it's just going to be, that's the way my life's going to be the rest of the time. But I didn't, because my business was on systems and I still had to service the leads that were coming this way. I still had my daughter in high school going to college that I had to pay for. And because of coaching for like 10 years prior to that, my mind would not let me just give in, right? Doesn't mean that I ignored it. It just meant that it wasn't going to let me sit down and just ignore it. Because if you're coaching with me and you have something bad happen, I'm going to say, well, did you call all your creditors and tell them that too, to not send your bills for the next month because you're going to be out of business for a week or two, and they're not. They're still going to send you the bill. Your house payment's still going to come due. You can still get late payments. You can still lose your car, lose your house. So that voice kept playing in my head. So I got up and I went to work every day. And if I hadn't done that, I would not have met my wife. And Lynette is the most amazing person on the planet. I mean, I cannot tell you how lucky I am that I get to have this yet for the rest of my life. And even more so, it's like my kids and her kids, the blended family, the dogs. I mean, we had 5 dogs at one time and a cat. But everybody just blended together like we were supposed to be together forever. So get out of your comfort zone. I'm going to show you how to take your business, get the systems in place to grow to 100 sales a year. And I want, now, side note, I want you to be able to have conversations about this with your real estate agents. That it's not just about mortgages. It's about helping them grow their business, because when you help them grow their business, you're going to own the business. So if you have 3 realtors that you work with regularly, and we get into this kind of conversation with them, and this is like our ongoing conversation with them, and you show them how to sell 100 homes a year, guys, that's 300 transactions you can add to your pipeline. And it's not just random or one-offs, and as you do that, they're going to tell other people about how awesome you are, because now you're closing 100 of their deals, or even 75 or 80 of their deals, and you let them throw 20 to a sister-in-law or brother-in-law, whatever it might be, that they're going to tell other people how awesome you are. And so your business just grows exponentially. So here's like some more E-Myth principles. And again, raise your hand if you need a pause out and you wanted to just ask a question anywhere throughout. In fact, somebody just, Lori, raise your hand and just see if I can see if it pops up on my screen, just so I can see if she's paying attention. And if, there you go. All right, cool. So see, I can see that. When you do that, you can put your hand down now. So I'll see that when you guys raise your hand, and I can take a pause and you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Thank you, Lori, for doing that. All right, so this is E-Myth stuff. If your business isn't growing, it's dying. You've probably heard that saying somewhere before. Well, it came from Michael Gerber. So that means if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And I talk about creating relationships with 5 people, 5 realtors a day, or connecting with 5 people a day and adding them to your database and then staying in touch with them, right? I know I've talked to every one of you about that in our calls somewhere. It's about growing that database and getting back into relationship. So if your business isn't growing, if you're not connecting with 5 new people a day and writing those 5 notes, your business is actually dying over the long haul. It may not seem like it. And the other thing is the systems part. If we've talked about tracking all the things that you're doing and creating your perfect system, you make ordinary people deliver extraordinary service. And or when I say extraordinary, it's like if you're involved in your transactions too much, or you feel like you're involved more than you should be, it's because there's something about the way you do things that makes that experience awesome for your agent and their client and your clients and their client, right? So if you can systematize that and document it and create a checklist, a perfect timeline of those things that need to happen, it doesn't really matter who does most of it. It's still delivering your level of service, clear down to even if you return phone calls when you don't have an answer. Like there's a lot of people that just don't return phone calls for a day or two because they haven't gotten the answer from the person they're trying to get a hold of. Well, then that just makes everybody feel like nothing's happening. But if you're that person that people love you because you communicate well and let them know what's going on, even when nothing's going on, then that needs to be documented into your system that we make the call after any call that comes into our office within X amount of hours or within minutes or whatever. So the systems will actually help you deliver your extraordinary service with anybody on your team. And there's 3 core points that Michael Gerber talks about in eMyth. It's the client fulfillment system. And that's what you guys are working on now. The transactions that you're processing, you actually have multiple clients, right? Not only do you have your client, which the realtors like to call them their client, don't they? But it's your client. It's your client and it's their client. It's both of yours client, right? But it's about them having a great experience. But then you have one other parallel one that the realtor has to have a great experience so that they'll use you again and send you more business. So you guys have a double whammy here on client fulfillment systems, right? But he also talks about lead capture and lead conversion systems. And that's where I'm showing that the 100 deals a year are in the capture and when I say conversion, even think about cultivate. It's cultivating that captured person who's going to move and staying in touch with them so that when they get ready to do something that you get that piece of business. All right, so I'm kind of easing you in, and this will start to go a little bit faster as we get going. But the reason why most agents struggle in their business and why you don't want to rely on the real estate agent to help you grow your business, because they're too busy doing everything, just like you probably are as well. But they're going to closings, they're putting signs up, putting lockboxes up. They may have team members that do some of this stuff, but they're negotiating contracts, they're finding missing signatures, they're running to the title company, dropping off earnest money checks. There's so much stuff that needs to get done that's why we're always running around harried. And so what I talk about is when I got into real estate, well, what most people do in business is you start your business and you get going and you get to a busy spot where you can then bring in a help to help take some of the stuff off your plate. What you did was you built a 2-lane highway and you filled that 2-lane highway up with traffic to where it was starting to jam up and things were piling up on your desk. So what you do is you hire an assistant. So you just put the whole thing under construction. You guys have a little bit of construction in your area right now, right? So you put it under construction, your whole business under construction to expand this a couple of lanes. And so you bring in a new person. And it's a little rough at first, just like construction. It's congesting everybody into one lane. It takes longer. It's a mess. It's a disaster. Accidents happen. But as soon as you get them trained, all of a sudden you get those lanes back open again. And now you're flowing, right? Until you fill up those 4 lanes. And then you put it back under construction again. And you hire the next person or the next person. And you keep putting your business under construction. Guys, all I did was I built a 20-lane highway from day one. And what I did, this is like Brad Korn selling 20 houses a year. I went and shadowed people that were selling 300 homes a year. And I documented what they were doing in their systems. And I would bring those systems back. I mean, I probably sat with a dozen realtors selling 300 homes a year and went to conferences and wrote down the systems that they were doing. And I brought those back and I applied them. I put all these systems in place to build a 20-lane highway so that when I do 100 sales a year, I say I do it pretty easily and lazily, but it's really detailed systems that flow everything through. And I'm just doing what the system tells me to do. But we're only using like 6 or 7 lanes of this 20-lane highway. I have nowhere near maxing out my capabilities where I'm feeling overwhelmed and things are slipping through the cracks. Doesn't mean we don't forget stuff. When we don't follow the system, we forget stuff, right? When we rely on the system, nothing can be forgotten. It's that detailed. So think about building a 20-lane highway for your business. So let me pause for a second. You can see how I'm not only talking to you about what I talk to realtors about, but I'm also talking to you about your own business. All right. See how we're doing on time. So the benefit of a system is it's consistent, predefined, repeatable, and it's automatic. And that's the automatic part is the part that may be missing from a lot of your businesses. Like if you have a checklist in a file and your process, you got 10 listings this month, and you got to go to all the checklists to see if everything's on track, which means there's always going to be, if you have to open up every file and look at every checklist, you're probably operating in reactive mode most of the time. So in eMyth, we're talking about like a Starbucks, right? Or even a McDonald's. McDonald's is the most successful franchise on the planet. It doesn't matter whether we like the burgers or not. I mean, I know they are so consistent and persistent. I get the same burger every time. I get the same pain in my gut if I even eat one of those things. I feel horrible for exactly 1 hour and then it goes away, right? That's how precise they are. But Starbucks, I mean, think about even the customization in systems. Think right now, just type, if you got your chat open, and this is what I have people do in the room, is start typing in what you order when you go to Starbucks. And we'll start to see all the different ways that you order Starbucks. I'm a triple venti, white mocha, non-fat, whatever, right? I do leave the non-fat out. I added that. So I'm just being transparent here. I like the cream, the milk, right? But think of all the different ways everybody orders their coffee, and it's the same way every single time when you come in, and just listen to people in the row or in the line next time you go in there. Everybody's different, completely different. So here's where the 100 sales are and what I want to awaken you to that is sitting right in front of you, that if you systematize this, it's your database. Your database is full of people that already know who you are. They already like you. They already trust you. Now, the difference is that in our industries, we're taught to go get the next deal, get the next listing, get the next buyer. In your guys' case, I would say get the next loan app, right? So we're taught to get the next deal, get the next deal, get the next deal. When in actuality, there's this whole group of people that we already know us, like us, and trust us. I mean, there are realtors that you have bumped into and met that you know, like, and trust. And I tell the real estate agents, there are people in your Facebook list, right? Think about Facebook or in your cell phone. You talk to these people. They know you, like you, trust you. But our industry teaches us to go talk to strangers and try and find business because we're salespeople. But if you just create relationships and reconnect with the relationships that you have, you can get the database will spit out 100 sales a year. In fact, at the very end, I'm going to share with you 4 steps to reconnecting with these people. And you don't have to be a pushy salesperson. You don't have to sell them anything. But the honest truth is that people like working with people they know, like, and trust. Our friends, I mean, if you're knowledgeable at what you do, of course they want to call you. It's not the script where you say, oh, you don't want to work with a family member. You know why you don't want to work with a family member in real estate? Because most real estate agents don't know anything about real estate, or they sell one house a month or one house every 2 months. That's why you don't want to work with a family member, because it's going to be a winging it transaction all the way through, and that will cause problems with the relationship. I will tell you that my friends and family, nobody would do real estate without me. They're always going to consult me first. And even if it's out of the area, they call and consult with me because I know my stuff and they know that. So better return on investment from marketing to moving back into the relationship-based business is that if you talk to people directly and you create a relationship and you have a two-way conversation, there's a bigger ROI on that, believe it, than marketing to the masses to see how many will call you back. So on this, let's just talk about what that looks like. So I say, how often does the average person move? And if you guys want to unmute, tell me what you think average time. I mean, National Association of Realtors says every 5 to 7 years, but what do you think it is in your market? You can unmute and just shout out a number if you want.
Probably 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Anybody else? I know I'm working
3.
with 8. Okay.
3, I said. 3.
Okay. Hot markets are moving 3 to 5 years. Slower markets are moving 5 to 7 years. And I'm even in New Jersey, and there's probably about 30 agents on a call like this, and they said it's 10 years. So when the market crashed and people were upside down, they had to stay in their houses a little longer because they couldn't get out of it. That moved to about 10 years. When your market's crazy hot, now if inventory is super low and there's not enough houses coming on, it still might be 3 to 5. You might even be 5 to 7 because there's not, if it were 3 years, you'd have a lot of inventory and a lot of buyers, and it's all constantly just turning over. That's actually a normal market. So yeah, we'll say somewhere between 3, 5, 7, and 10. I think my example might show just what it were if it were 7 years. However, if it's 7 years and you said 3, just double the numbers I'm sharing with you, because that means they're moving twice as fast. I know there's a little bit of math in here, but I want you guys to follow me on this. And this is, again, what I would say if I'm talking to realtors. So if you take the average, and this is to help you get the math part, if there's 100 people and they're moving every 7 years, then that means 15 people are moving in the next 12 months. So if you divide that by 12, it's 1 person for every 100 people you know is moving right now. Now, keep in mind that this is like everything. If you're cold calling, calling for sale by owners, calling expireds, all that stuff, even though those people act like they're moving, but if you're just cold calling like 100 people, you're only possibly going to find 1 person that's possibly moving right now. The sad news is that if you would have to like dial 200 numbers to get 100 people on the phone. Maybe 50 didn't hang up on you. You know, they weren't mean and hung up real quick, but there was probably about 10 people that you had a good conversation with, and you ended up with maybe 1 appointment out of that whole thing to call 100 people. And if you do that one day, it's 5, 6, 7 hours of straight calling, nothing else but just dialing numbers. So how often is that really happening in a realtor's business, right? How often have you guys really ever done that? 5.5 to 6 hours a day to call 100 people to find 1 appointment, right? So, but it's 1 sale. This is why everything that we typically do when we do marketing and mass calling and email blasts and things like that are less than a 1% return. Because out of the 100 people I may call, only 1 knows that they're moving this month. But next month, somebody else is moving out of that same 100, but I have to call all 100 again, or the 99 left over, to find the 1 that's moving next month. I'd have to call the other 98 left over 3 months from now to find the next one that's moving. See how that works? So now put it into perspective. Like if you had 1,000 people, just look at your database, your list of people. I mean, you guys have 1,000 realtors in your area, right? And the realtor, when you're translating these numbers, understand that when you're talking about realtors, 100 realtors, if they called 100 people, would have 1 sale a month, but 100 realtors have an opportunity for 100 sales every single month, 1 sale a month if they're doing that, right? So you get that leverage of the realtor talking to the consumer directly, and or if you're dealing with them directly. But 1,000 people move in every 7 years is 142 people. Think about this for a minute. You already know there, if you've been in your community more than 3 to 5 years, you know 1,000 people have crossed your path. 142 of them are moving this year. But if you break that down, it's 12 a month. So right there with 1,000 people, if you just reconnected with them all and you stayed in touch with them, you're going to get 12 extra closings a month, 12 extra closings a month. Is this good stuff so far, guys? A top agent, and you guys, now this is for you, the mortgage officers, loan officers, if you're talking to having 2 or 3 or 4, I would like to have 5 just really good agents to have a consistent business. A top agent who's putting in 5 people a day to their database every day and or has a database of 5,000 people or more, if they're moving every 7 years, they have 714 people moving every 12 months in their database if they have 5,000 people in their database. So one great question you guys can ask is, So how many, do you have a database that you use? And about how many people do you have in there? So then you can just say, so like if they say 1,000, say, well, if 1,000, okay, well, that's good because if I mean, how often are they moving? Every 5, 7 years? What do you think? And they'll tell you, oh, probably 7 or 5 or whatever. If they say 7, you got the numbers right here for you. Wow. So if you 1,000 people in your database and they're moving every 7 years, you have 142 sales a year happening in your database. They're probably closing 10 or 12 a year, right? So that's like 12 per month. So you're actually showing them that there's business in their database that they may be missing. If they're a top agent, you got to show them this too, because I guarantee you the agent that has 5,000 people in his database is not closing 700 transactions in 12 months. They're probably closing 100, maybe 80. There's very few people that break that 100 mark. Now, those are who we're looking for, the people that have that consistent, but that is 60 closings a month, right? 714 closings every single year. And that starts with, we talked about 1,000, right? That's starting with 5 a day, every day, 5 days a week. You just connect with people and build your database up. So let me show you why this is, how this works and how to find the 100 sales that you're already missing. The big problem is that we're not top of mind with those 1,000 people who already know us, like us, trust us, right? When they think of real estate, they have to think of us. So I'm going to play a little game with you. I need 3 people to raise their hand and play a game with me, because you're going to unmute yourself. 3, it's a fun game. You can't lose. There's no way you can lose. There's no right or wrong answer. Let me see a hand raised and I'll give you the name. All right, so we got Lori is playing. I need 2 more people. And I'll do this in the room with the real estate agents as well. All right, we got Amber. And let me see if anybody else raised their hand. It's hiding behind my screen here. I might need 1 more. Okay, come on, 1 more hand. Who's paying attention? Give me 1 more hand or I'll pick somebody. Oh, Laura. All right, got Laura. All right, here we go. So guys, pay attention to this and watch what happens. And I'll share with you a statistic from the National Board of Realtors when we get done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a product, and I just want you to rattle off as many brands as fast as you can think of them of this product, right? I'm going to give you a product. You rattle off brand names that come to mind. Lori, you're going to be first, okay? Then we're going to go to Amber, and then we're going to go to Laura. So Lori, first one I'm going to give you an easy one. How about tennis shoes? Name as many brands as you can think of.
Nike, Adidas. This is embarrassing.
No, that's all right.
No, because I have a
There's
lot
no
of
wrong
shoes.
answer.
So I'm like, Saucony, I don't know how to say that one.
You're good. You actually
New
good. You
Balance.
passed. Yeah, you
Do you have
passed. You passed. You did good. All right, cool. All right, now we're coming to you, Amber. I'll give you another easy one. Potato chips. Go.
I had to unmute myself. Sorry.
Yep.
Lay's, Doritos, Fritos, Cheetos, potato chips brands.
Yeah, you did good. You did good. All right, you passed. All right, so Laura, we're going to give you the hardest one of all. No, I'm kidding. There is no right or wrong here, but just pay attention, guys, and play the game with us, right? So your next one is toothpaste.
Colgate, Crest, Arm & Hammer, Act.
All right, you did good. All right, you guys can mute yourselves out. Now, let me tell you what just happened. National Board of Realtors sends these statistics out to us all the time. 78% of all sellers talk to 1 agent and list their house. 19% will talk to 2, and the rest will talk to 3 or more. So 78 and 19 is 90-something% will talk to 2 agents and list their house. So you have to be top of mind, right? How many of you were thinking Nike, Lay's, Crest, right? That's the 78%. And we have to get the real estate agents and yourself to be with the real estate agents to be the Nike, the Lay's, and the Crest for the financial spot. And when I'm teaching realtors, I say, you have to become the Nike, Lay's, and Crest for the people in your community when they think of the word real estate. So it's about branding, and 78% or 98%, that also means that if you go on 4 listing appointments and 78% list with the first person they talk to, you should get 3 listings. If you go on 4 listing appointments and you don't get 3 listings, it's not a top of mind issue. It's a scripting issue or a listing presentation issue, those kind of things. I know you guys are getting a lot of stuff at once, but I'm talking to you in realtor language. So here's another thing that came out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book that Gary Keller wrote. Now, I know you have people with different companies and stuff, and I'm teaching this to people with different company. So I just say this was research done that talks about how to market to databases. And actually, Don Hobbs created a marketing brand thing where he created a fictitious realtor in a neighborhood, and they figured out what marketing got the biggest return. So if they marketed this fictitious realtor 8 times in 8 weeks, that fictitious realtor to the neighborhood, they thought that was a real person, and that's who they were calling to list their house with. But 8 times in 8 weeks brands you. It brings you top of mind. And this is like after you meet somebody, right? So after you meet somebody, if you hit them 8 times in 8 weeks, I know, like I hear it all the time when I'm coaching top loan officers, all loan officers. It's like, I don't want to be a pest. You have to be brand. You got to brand yourself. I mean, Budweiser gets it. There's commercials everywhere around the Super Bowl. It's on TV. It's at the end of the grocery store aisles. It's everywhere. There's blow up things with Budweiser all over them. So you got to become the brand. You are not pestering them. The content that you might be doing, and if you're always asking for a loan, could be, but we're talking about relationship style. The first time you meet somebody, moving into that relationship stage. Here's what the study showed. If you put somebody if you market to them 8 times in 8 weeks, and then 33 times a year after that, the 8 by 8, you get a 12-to-2 return, a 12-to-2 return, right? Let me just go through these numbers first. And that is the people that you know. You're not going to market this much to a stranger. That's going to be called spam. But once you meet somebody and you put them on this 8 by 8 and 12 touch, and you've earned, they know you, like you, and trust you, or the 33 touch, you're going to become top of mind, and you'll be the first person they think of, and they will be calling you. So I call it make the phone ring again. This kind of stuff makes your phone ring, not you going to find business. But if you don't know them, you're going to do whatever marketing out there. This shows like general public and the target group, which is like if you're targeting realtors, right? And you're trying to get them to your business and you're sending them something once a month. It's a 50-to-1 return. That's what the study showed. So that means for 100 people, you're going to get 2 opportunities. And that's if you did it over time for a long period of time. So when you move those people into the relationship side, when I talk about writing handwritten notes, I mean, I know that that's just driving some of you crazy. Well, I'm telling you, if you can move them over into this center ring where it's your allied resources and your MET group. I mean, your allied resources are those 3 agents that you're working with right now. You're taking them to lunch and coffee. The other ones that you're taking to lunch and coffee that aren't sending you a ton of business yet are just in your MET group. You're still not top of mind, or they suck at their business, and you need to help them find these 100 deals, and they will probably give them to you. But those are the people that already know you, like you, and trust you. So, and here's another look at how this works. There's a book out there called 7 Levels of Communication, 7L by Michael Maher, M-A-H-E-R. And he wrote basically the same relationship type thing. He wrote how relationships work. I wrote the book on how to systematize the follow-up so that you can create the relationships. And both of us, he's from Kansas City, lives in Atlanta now, but he teaches on why this stuff works. And this is a good example. So most people, this is their marketing. They advertise somehow, they do direct mail, they blast email, things that you're just sending out tons of emails. What that's called is the informational zone. And that is where your marketing is key. You got to have just kick butt headlines. You got to have great calls to action, and that's marketing to the masses or the haven't mets, right? But once you meet somebody and you can write them a note and just drop it in the mail, because now you know where they live and you guys are having conversations, or you know where their office is if they're a realtor, right? Now you can move into phone calls. And when they say events and seminars, I mean, it's just one-on-one with them. You could teach this class for their agents in their office, or do a buyer seminar with them. And then you're having those one-on-one meetings where you're actually getting more of those because you wrote them a note and you crossed over. If you look at the impact on this stuff, you guys are doing mass emails and all this direct mail. And we have great programs at Movement, right? But they're not responding. You're getting less than a 1% return. The impact, if you're getting it one-on-one, now, one-on-one with 1,000 people can't be done today, but one-on-one, 5 people a day, 5 days a week for 12 months is more. For 10 months is 1,000 people. So you can do 5 phone calls and write a note and then be more one-on-one with them and have more personal touches. And you can do that over a year. So most people can't wait for the year. They want it now. We want next piece of business, next piece of business. So if I re-look at that and I call it not connected and connected, this is where you really kind of the rubber hits the road with the real estate agents. I say, right now, write down how many people are in your database. And this is what I say to the real estate agents, or the list of people that you have or whatever. Just write down that number, right? Okay, now write down the number that's in your phone. And if you have the number of people that are on your Facebook friends list, write that down. So those numbers are written down. Look at that number. Now, if you guys wrote it down, great, write it down. Now look at that number. How many of those people have you talked to in the last week? Like picked up the phone and heard your voice? And I know if you don't like to hear this, pick up the phone. I don't have time to do that. The difference is 12 to 2 versus 50 to 1 is 6 to 8 times more business. And we're talking about the same people. You can market to the 1,000 people out here in the easy circle all day long if you want, with emails and get a 50 to 1 return. But if you plucked 5 of them out a day until all 1,000 are moved over, which is in 10 months, if you were regimented about it and you did 5 a day every day, you can pluck them all out of that outer ring and put them on the inner ring. And now you're at a 12 to 2 return. So how many of those people haven't you talked to in the last like 2 to 3 weeks? And everybody looks sick in the room. Like they're like, I don't know that I've talked to any of them in the last 2 weeks, except your active clients, right? And I said, then they're all not connected. They have all, you met them, but you're not connected anymore. You don't know anything about them, what their family's doing, if somebody graduated, if somebody died. I mean, all that stuff, right? So you have to move them all back out to the haven't met ring, which is technically the not connected, and you're going to have to reconnect with them. And this is where I tell real estate agents. So if you get this at all, you will go back to your database right now, cancel every follow-up plan you have them on and put them on a monthly mailer, monthly email, monthly mail. I don't care, but they're not connected. And the study showed 12 touches in 12 months, right? So most of them get pretty sick at that point when they're hearing that. In fact, some of you might be feeling a little woozy yourself. And that's just because we need to move them back into connected so we can write the note. And that's the bridge to get over that will start moving you top of mind. All right. So in chapter 7 and 8 of the book, I talk about systems and I talk about trusting the system. So once you get your system, your perfect process, your perfect follow-up process documented, and you trust it because it's you run it and you run off of it and let the system tell you what to do. And if you're doing something that's not in the system, add it, because eventually we're going to leverage this to where other people can be you in a spot. But right now, what happens is if you sat down with your LOA or your processor and you told them, here's how we kind of do stuff. And I tell real estate agents, if you were to hire an assistant onto your team or a team member, showing agent, whatever, you can have a training program that's a week long. You could go 2 weeks long. You could have this intense college level training program. The human brain is only going to remember about 25% of whatever you train somebody on or whatever I give you. You guys won't remember 25% of this presentation when we're done. So if you have if you train somebody and you tell them everything that makes your process awesome, your frustrations that you're having in your business right now, if you have a team member, is the stuff that they didn't remember, didn't realize it was important, because there's other things that are flying on their desks that are more urgent and more important. And the system's not telling everybody to do it. You were just hoping they would remember that you did it. So I was told once that when we dropped the ball on a client, it wasn't my buyer's agent's fault. It was my fault for not having it documented properly, that the system would have made sure it got done. So in this chapter, I talk about systems. And I'll show you some of those systems that we use. I'm just going to go through these kind of quick because we are working on some of these systems with you guys right now. But here's an example of for lead accountability for my team members. So I told you, if your business isn't growing, it's dying. That is like the main thing that drives my business, right? We got to feed the database every day with new connections that we can write notes to, because they're all going to move in the next 10 years for sure, somewhere between 3 to 5 and 7, right? So on this, I would start a plan, a follow-up plan in my database that looks like this. And it's just a series of events that once this plan starts, one day after the plan starts, Lois gets a link and she gets an introduction to the program that, hey, on our team, we're going to help you feed the database every single day or remind you to do it. 8 days later, she's going to get something else. What this looks like is, I'm going to move my little happy guy, right? What this looks like is she gets this email that has links, and it basically is saying Lois's past clients, Lois's fear not connected, or she needs to reconnect with the people that were on her list before she came to our team. And she'll get this email. And when she clicks on that email link, it takes her to a fill-in form where she just puts the name, address, phone number, hit submit, and they go into the database, right? So now if the database question always comes up with a lot of people here, guys, we just need to figure out what database you're going to use every day. I honestly don't care which one it is. I just want you to use one that you would feed every day. And if it has campaigns and action plans, this is the kind of stuff we want to create. So for example, here's an internet lead. And I want you guys, now this is a side note for loan officers, for all my coaching clients. If you could show a realtor this plan, that you have this plan in your database, and if they get you the internet leads that are coming their way, that you can actually put them on this plan for them and help them convert them. Now, when I talk about calls and stuff in here, we're going to be giving the realtor the list of their own internet leads to call every day until they get them converted. They're going to thank you for doing it because they're not doing it. I worked for one of the biggest teams in the area, and I was merging my business in with them. They brought in 16,000 internet leads in 6 months. During that 6 months, top team in the office had 72 closings on the book. So 16,000 leads at 10% is 160,000 people were moving in the next 12 months. Divide that by 12, there were around 15,000 people moving every single month in that list right there, every single month, and they closed 72. So knowing that we suck at converting internet leads, I created this plan. And if you look on day 0, their internet lead touch 1, which is an email that goes out to the internet lead right away to say, we're so glad we connected. We can get you properties the second they hit the market. The next thing that pops up immediately, and when we start this plan, internet lead comes in, this plan starts. My assistant sees something that says, do we have the phone number? So she's doing research to see if they filled in their phone number. If not, can we find it? Fastpeoplesearch.com, something like that. Because tomorrow, my assistant's going to hand me, the system is going to hand me a name and a phone number, and it's this internet lead. So if she found the phone number the day before, then I'm going to have a phone number now. And the system is going to tell me to call tomorrow and the next day. And then I get a break for a few days. And then I'm going to call again in 5 days. And then I get a break for a while. Because if I've tried to call them 4 times now and they haven't answered, and it's 5 days later, they're becoming one of the 99% that I'm not going to convert, right? So I'll throw one more call in there at day 11. And from day 11 in my system, I'll never see that internet lead name again. When this plan ends, you'll see at the very end, it says internet plan complete, start the next plan. So then we just put them on a forever monthly drip email forever. And we just keep restarting that plan. And it just says stuff like, hey, are you still looking? Here's the link to find out how much a house might sell for. And it just takes them to our website. I'm never going to worry about that lead again because I've got another dozen leads that have come in since then. And we're working on the conversion. So this just is one system to convert more internet leads. This is what our 8x8 looks like. And I know this shows a lot of letters. And you guys, if you've coached with me for very long at all, I'm anti-email because it just gets unseen. If they're not expecting it, it is getting highlighted and deleted in chunks. Now, if you send out thousands and thousands and thousands, you'll probably get a 1% conversion rate. However, if you start focusing on bringing 5 of those into your inner database and make it a little more personable touch like this, and you got their address, you're going to start getting a 12-2 return. So I show them what the 8x8 looks like. And the first thing we send out is just like a resume type letter. Hey, it's a pleasure to know you. Wanted to share with how our team works and what we look like and blah, 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 right? And then on the 33 touch, we actually send out 33 connections. I have less than 7 emails throughout the year. I have some, probably about 10 or 11 mail stuff, 4 phone calls, 4 social media touches. And it's spanned out in a campaign that when I hit the start button, it'll tell me 33 days from today what's due. If it's a call or if it's a letter, the emails will just go out automatically. So you want automation in your system, but you got to add the personal touch back in. You just have to have the system make sure the personal touch happens, because if you skip it, you'll move back out to the not connected group again. I can tell you right now, the content that's in all this stuff doesn't matter at all. They're not even reading it. They might look at the first line. They might look at something else. At least they see your brand, right? All right, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're about an hour. We're doing good. One of them goes out that we gave our sellers moving boxes to help them pack stuff up and get moved. We literally found a warehouse here in town that had shipped to Walmart, and they have to put it in a special box for Walmart. So we got all their original boxes, and then I just stuck a Avery label with the Corn Team logo on it. So however it gets done. So examples of content for email. This is just the stuff that I started with. And some of these plans are still running in my database. So we got like the moving truck, 101 ways to tell a kid you love them. I mean, come on, guys. We're setting mortgages and real estate. And you're telling me you send out a letter that's 101 ways to tell kids you love them? Yep. Because 98% of the people are not moving today. They're moving sometime in the next 3, 5, 7 years, right? So 98% of the people aren't moving. We send them free property search. That's a link to make our website sticky. If you guys have something sticky on your website, you want something sticky there on your Facebook to drive them back to. So chicken soup from the soul stories. Now, the one thing, we still have real estate stories in there. We actually talk about how we help somebody get through the process, or, have them write a paragraph or 2 about their experience with you, kind of like a testimonial, but turn it into a story. And that's what we send out. And then the worst thing, I mean, this is just being honest with you, but it's probably one of the funniest things I send out, is the 50 things you can do with Alberto VO5. Now, right there, I'm telling you guys, normally you would be like, this is the guy I'm coaching with. It sells 100 properties a year. Not that specifically, but people aren't reading things all the way through. In fact, more people read that one because they're like, Alberto VO5. Now I can get away with it. Coach Corn with a K. I put, this is kind of K, corny. And I write that on the letter before it actually goes, oh, did I say letter? Goes in the mail and gets mailed to them. I don't email this stuff out. I mean, there's no way anybody's going to read it if it's emailed out. The email is the sticky stuff, but it's touching. And what happens is they see your logo and your name enough that you're top of mind, and the 33 touches keep you there. If you go back to once a month, you'll start to drip back to be the Colgate or the Aquafresh or the Fritos. You don't want to be Fritos and Aquafresh, because you're going to lose out 90% of the time, whatever your number 2, 3, and 4 spot was. Most of us didn't even go past 3. It's because the human brain cannot remember more than 3 top things right off the top of their head. They usually have to start digging in. You guys remember watching that? They were digging and working hard to figure out what the next thing was past number 2 even. So that's just human nature. We can't remember all this stuff that's happening. All right, so as I go through here, we should be right on time, finish up here in about 5 or 10 minutes. The client, what are your systems on your clients? Are you doing surveys with your clients to find out what they really like? How do you communicate with them? I mean, with systems, if you have that pain in the butt, for you guys realtors, or I'm talking to realtors, is that pain in the butt seller that calls you the minute there's been a showing and they want feedback and how did it go and did you sell my house yet? You're going to have maybe a high maintenance follow-up plan that while they're listed, you have a call in there every 3 days to touch base with them. And that can be anybody on your team, right? If it's a team, otherwise it might be you, but it's keeping them more informed throughout the process. Real simple thing, my voicemail. If you call my cell phone, you're going to get a voicemail that says, hey, this is Brad's cell phone. Today's Friday. Leave a message at the tone. I'll be checking and returning calls throughout the day. If you want to call that blah, blah, blah. So when I say this is Friday, leave a message at the tone or call my office number and I can get back to you more quickly. If you leave a voicemail, it doesn't become this fire urgency thing. If a voicemail says, hey, you reached Brad's phone, leave a message and I'll call you back as soon as I can. Well, if it's a client with a problem and as soon as you can means like right now, we've got something blowing up, right? But if it says Friday, I don't get those calls anymore because they know I've tuned into my voicemail. I'm checking my voicemail throughout the day. It worked. So how do you communicate with them and you create systems around that? So in the book, I talk about the perfect process. How many of you have heard that one before? Now, you know why I said we got to spend a little time documenting the things. It's the thing you're going to hate to do the most, but this is what I created from it. What I created from it was everything in that first column there. Everything in the very first column is all the action steps from the time a buyer starts working with us until they find a house. Now, the second column, and I know I probably can't read it directly, but it's the time frame in which that happens. So the first couple of things say 0 days, this will happen. The next 1, 2 through two things say 1 day. The next couple of things say 3 days and then 5 days, right? So where in the process, like once we start working with a buyer, here's everything that we want and what I want to have happen or that I did when I was creating a great business model for my team to follow. This has to happen within the first day. This has to happen within the second day. Remind me 3 days later to do this. Now, the rest of it, if you look, this is my team that I had at the time I was processing all these systems. Danielle was our assistant. Sonia was the administrative, ran the whole office, wife. Brad is in the third column. Look at that, guys. This is the perfect buyer process. And this is when I had a team of buyer agents and there's no X's in Brad's column. How many of you like some no X's in some of your columns, right? So, and Ellen was our buyer's agent. So guess who has the most X's, right? So Ellen has X's. Now, Danielle still has some X's in there, the same as Ellen, because they work together as a team. When we created these processes, on the sticky note, on one of those items, we wrote, okay, who's responsible for this? And Ellen would say, well, I am, but also Danielle helps me do that. So those got 2 X's right there. Now, let me really explain what happens. Right now, Ellen decides to leave along with Rick or Rock. Ellen and Rock decide to leave and she has all the X's. So our buyer's agent just left the team. We pull this sheet up and we sit down with Danielle, Sonia, and Brad and say, all right, let's go through these X's and let's see who's going to take what. And it's kind of like, yeah, I'll take that one and I'll take that one. And Sonia will take these 3. Danielle already had some. She takes on a few more. We print out the sheet. Our job descriptions are instantly redone on everything that's going to still happen step by step, process by process, right? So that's where systems come in huge, handy, handy, handy. Is this good stuff so far? You guys hanging? I see a lot of, I'm not watching you guys live or anything. I know you're probably taking notes, but hopefully you're picking up a few things out of here. Yep, I'm seeing it. Yep. Couldn't do it quick enough. Yep, clicking on reactions. All right. So in chapter 21 and 22, we talk about time. And now I've already worked through this exercise with you. Now, can you see why I have these things? Have you guys working on these things? I've written a book on it. It's what I did in my business. And it's not so much that you have to do it exactly like I did it, but I figured out the simplest way to get this stuff done. So you got to have that working on time. A lot of you, I've talked about tracking everything you're doing every 30 minutes for a week or 2 weeks, right? And then highlighting in green, which is what's bringing in new dollars, yellow, which could be delegated to somebody else, even though you're probably still doing it. It's not bringing in new dollars. It probably should be yellow. You should be focused on new dollars at all times at some point. Now you'll work through your business to where, and I'm talking to real estate agents now, you'll work through your business where there's things you have to do to get paid. But if you could hire an assistant and if you had unlimited money, these things don't have to be done by you. And there's certain things that will bring in new money that you have to do. And then orange is just personal stuff. That's the stuff you've got to do, you know, going to graduation or moving your daughter to college or whatever it might be. So this is a real live kind of calendar look at whatever time it was in my business when I grabbed this screenshot. But if I did not have working on time scheduled in my business, and that on time is in my calendar under permanent black marker, because that is when I worked on my systems. And whenever that popped up, I knew on time meant I either can get out of this crazy wild hamster wheel someday, or I'm going to be stuck in it forever. So I would literally sit down. A perfect, like over extreme example would be you sit down for an hour and just go in to move home and get lost. I mean, I already know what it doesn't do and all the things it doesn't do. There's other stuff that it can do and does do. And if they figure it out, it could be really cool. Doesn't mean that we're pushing move home. You got to use the database that you're going to feed every single day, right? But if you don't go in there and jack around with it, you'll never, ever be able to use it. And so you got to have that on time just to free yourself up to say, all right, I'm gonna go check out this campaign thing. If you have something else, use that. Just go in and find out how to create the campaigns and action plans. All right, so in the book 2324, what's cool about when you start getting these systems in place, now we're down the line a little bit where you got systems, you got it documented, you got your team in there, you're leveraging yourself, you're getting some time on your calendar. The cool thing is you get to do what you like to do when you have systems. And what a lot of people do when they bring on people onto their team, like an assistant or their help or whatever, what you do is you give them all the crap. Most people give them all the crap they hate doing. And that's that person's whole job, is to do crap that you hate doing. No wonder why you have turnover from your assistants and your processors and all that stuff. There's other reasons as well. But again, I'm supposed to be talking to real estate agents. So when you hire assistants, there's huge turnover. They're always leaving a team. Team members are always leaving real estate agents because you gave them all the crap you didn't want to do. So when you document and systematize, you can have some stuff in there where you're delegating who's doing what. Everybody gets to do something that they like to do and have more fun and want to come into work. So systems basically let you live your life and have a business that you can count on. I was out of my business for 5 months and we sold 97 homes that year. All right, you guys have been great. Like we're down to an hour. I was trying to get this down to an hour and this is like 5 minutes. So this, if we're doing a live session or we're doing anything for like we did in Columbus, now is where we kind of send out the survey and we say, all right, we got one thing we're going to do. We're going to take a little test and then we're going to give you the 4 simple steps to reconnect with the people in your database and in your phone and get those 100 sales a year. So then we send out that we give the survey out and we walk through it with them. It's like, so think about the people that are here, you know, there's no wrong answers. Would you consider having coffee with the loan officer that invited you here today, right? That kind of stuff. So that's how we do the live events. But let me go through the reconnect plan. So this is the 4 simple steps to reconnect with the people that are in your database, on your phone, whatever, right? And just get reconnected so you can tap into those 100 sales a year. First of all, you wrote down a number of how many people are in your database. You wrote down the number of how many people on your Facebook friends list, and you wrote down the number of how many people contacts are in your phone. What I did was I had them pull their phone up. In fact, you guys do this with your real estate agent. If you're sharing anything, if you get to talk about the 5 to 7 years or 3 to 5 years, whatever, and you say how many people are in your database and they say 1,000, whatever, just figure 10 to 20% is 10 years or 5 years. So around 10 to 20% of that number is moving every year. So if they tell you 1,000, just say, so there's somewhere between 10 to 20 of those, or 100 to 200 of those people are moving every year. If you're saying it's every 5 to 10 years, if they say 3 years, you know, 5 is 200, 20%, right? So, you know, 200 people are moving out of their 100 if it's every 5 years. So you just bump it up a little bit. So if they're moving every 3 years, then it's around 250 to 275 people out of those 1,000 people are moving this year. Divide that by 12 and you got about 20 or so people are moving this month. I mean, those are 1,000 people that know you. They already know you and you got 20 sales a year sitting right in front of you. So you can have them go to their phone contact list, hit their contacts and scroll to the bottom. It will usually show you a number at the bottom of how many people are in their phone. So then you can say, now these people have talked to you on the phone. Like for some reason, they're in your phone. You've had a 2-way conversation. So they'll say something like 300 or 500 or 700, whatever. So just for simplicity's sake, everybody's probably got 500 people on their phone. They at least have 300, but 500 people in your phone, if they're moving every 10 years, that's 50 people are moving. Those 50 of those people are moving this year. And it just makes them go like, oh my gosh, I mean, if that number is real, which it is, it can't be nobody staying in their house every 30 or 40 years, right? So go to your social media list. Now you can add one extra step. You can make it a 5-step if you need to play the game with yourself. You can send out a letter, which I had to do. I had to send out a letter to 5 people today. Like I just went to my A in my database. When I got this, I sent the first 5 A's, this letter that basically said, hey, I apologize. I haven't done a great job of keeping in touch. And I just realized that this week. So I just wanted to say, I'm looking forward to reconnecting with you or just connecting again and seeing how you're doing. P.S. I will be contacting you in the next few days, which means a phone call. So I can write the note so I can move them back over into the 8x8 33 touch. And I went on this on purpose. I was very on purpose. So I did 5, I mailed 5 of these letters today, 5 to the next 5 A's tomorrow, 5 to the next 5 B's the next day. And then I scheduled my call 3 days later so that they got it in the mail and their phone rang and it was me. And it was really simple. The script to use, well, first of all, once you mail the letter, you got to pick up the phone. This won't work. I already did this. I mailed the letter out to my entire database, 150, 200 people at that time, right? I mailed out 200 letters at once because I got all excited about this when I heard about it. And then I tried to start making calls. Well, shoot, by 3 days, I was like 25 or 30 calls in. It was brutal. There's no way I was going to get to the other numbers. And so pretty soon I just like, I'll forget it. That's when I figured I had to send 5 today, 5 tomorrow, 5 the next day. And you got to pick up the phone 3 days later or it goes nowhere. So many times in our industry, they teach us the 3 purposes of a phone call are to ask for business. If they don't need our business, then we ask them if they know anybody else that does, right? And then they always said, then, if not, then you're supposed to strengthen your relationship. But somewhere along the line in this find the next deal and all the training classes, we only do the first 2 steps. Hey, you thinking about buying or selling real estate? No, 99% of the time. Okay, well, do you know anybody else that is? Well, no, they can't think of anybody off the blue. You just called them out of the blue. They haven't heard from you in years and you're calling them out of the blue. Of course, they're not going to think of anybody. What I say is reverse that. Like on this reconnect plan, your whole purpose is to strengthen your relationship or get your relationship back first, right? And the fun part is that you don't have to ask about business or ask for a referral because once you connect with them, they'll say, hey, it's weird you called me today, right? But remember, 98% of the people aren't moving today. Remember, I said 20% of the people are moving every year, 10 to 20%. Divided by 12 is less than 1 to 2% of the people you ever talk to on any given day. Less than 1% of them are moving right now. So why would you put them on an all email drip plan or an all mortgage drip plan or whatever, right? So you have to strengthen your relationship first and get reconnected, write the note, and then just be there when they're ready. They'll bring up real estate, I promise. Good stuff so far? So what is the script is what a lot of people say. First of all, if you lose touch with them, you don't know if people have died, if kids have graduated, moved out. Do they like pets? Do they even like pets, right? So are you sending stuff with dogs on it? We've talked about some marketing with dogs and pets on them with some of you. Do they even like pet? What if they hate dogs? Or what if they just lost their dog, So what do you know about your clients and your marketing? So it's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Those are the 4 things that you focus on. And really it's just, how's the family doing? You guys doing okay during all these times? And COVID kind of makes it a little easier to have this conversation. I apologize for not keeping in touch. COVID really made me aware of just how important friendships are. A lot of times everybody's afraid to talk to each other about what they've done. So I was just thinking of you, and I always like working with people that I know and like, and just wanted to see how you guys are doing. How's the family? How's work going? What have you guys been doing for fun in all this? So that, and even there, sometimes it'll rise up that they don't like their house or it needs too much work. And maybe we should try and get them into a nicer house while they're stuck at home during COVID. But the dreams part is there anything going on that you're picking up in that conversation that you could connect them with? right? Because now you've got inspectors, handymen, stuff like that. And then follow it up with the handwritten note. No I, me, or my in the note at all. Just, it was great connecting with you. Glad to hear you're all doing well and that the family's, having fun, playing board games together. Just something about the conversation and make it about them. And then just say, great catching up. Look forward to keeping in touch, Lori, right? And you just sign it, handwritten note. My handwriting is so crappy. That came up on a call. I don't know if you're on the call or not, but about handwriting. I think it was Mike Benevito. Anyway, he was talking about, I can't really do the notes. My handwriting is pretty bad. So I sent him a picture of what my notes look like, right? They're horrible. And I write notes every day, by the way. So, and then once that's over, you start the next plan, which would be the 8x8 or the 33 touch. So guys, here's what I'm saying today. Go to your database, start with the A's and go all the way through to the Z's. Send out the letter to 5 people a day, every day, and then schedule the call, write the note. And that alone right there will double or triple your business. So last thing I'll leave you with is that your database is a gold mine. I mean, this is where all the business, the real dollars are sitting. And I watch too many people hire somebody, minimum wage, an assistant, whatever. I hired somebody to come in and clean up my database. That's like if you own a bank and you hire somebody off the street at minimum wage and you say, hey, here's all the combinations to all of our safes in the bank. They're getting really messy. They're a little, some bands broke off and the money's kind of falling over. And we just want you to go back there today and just clean that up, not even pay attention to what they're doing. You're not watching your assistant clean up your database. So just go back in the vault, clean all that up, put all those bands back together. What? Are you kidding? Who's going to do that? Your database is a gold mine. So the last thing I'll leave you with is there's a lot of information that we went over today. You can narrow this down to your top best ideas on what you need to do to get things in place. And I usually give out these little action forms just to help them go through their notes and pull out their top ahas and then create that action list. We can do this with you guys one-on-one on our coaching calls. You can just pull out your best ideas and shoot them to me in an email, and we can sort through those and figure out which ones you're going to work on. So, okay, now I want, if you guys are still in, you're tuned in, unmute yourself. Let me know if what did you get from this? If anybody would share how they think they're going to use this, I think the rest of us could learn from that as well. And this will be recorded, so it'll be sent out for you guys to watch again as well. Anybody want to add anything in there about how you see you might be able to use this, or do you have questions about how you can use it? All right, you guys are so shy.
What's your favorite database?
My favorite what?
Database.
Well, I don't have one. It's a real answer. I'm on my 14th database. I have Top Producer right now, which is a real estate database. I don't like it any more than any other ones I've liked, and there's never going to be a database that everybody's going to like. Here's why I use Top Producer. Well, right now, I've got thousands of these campaigns running. So there's nothing bulk about my follow-up. It's very personal one-on-one, and I built it over time, right? So like I've got some people on a 10-year follow-up plan from when they bought their house. We know they're going to move in the next 10 years. And we have pain things showing up at 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and 10 years. I have another one that's the internet leads. I have another one that's an investor. So it's talking about investor stuff. And I just created these over the years as I needed. And I try not to have any more customized ones than I need. Like my generic 8x8 and 33 touch is what I showed you earlier. Chicken soup from the souls, things like that. That's my default go-to. Like I don't create a campaign for every certain scenario because all it is about branding. So the answer to the question is Top Producer allows me to completely customize my drip plan, what I want to have happen, if I want to be a call or a to-do or whatever. And if it's a letter, it actually sends it to my printer right behind me here. So in the morning, I might have, well, here you go. I'll show you guys. This is the letters for today. So it has the labels right here, and it has the letters printed out in order of the labels. So these will, how many people are on plans? These will go in envelopes today. These were the ones that we just printed off this morning. So those will go out. And if I have an assistant, I do it. They'll do it. They'll mail them. If I don't have an assistant, they still have to go in the mail. And we do that every single day. And it's just keeping our brand out there. So I can have a letter, then I can have it send an email automatically. And then I can have a to-do pop-up that says to go find them on social media and give them a direct message. But it also doesn't do cool stuff like text message automatically. So I try to automate as much as I can, but I have the personal touches in there. The other cool thing about it is on my campaign, from the time I list a house until it sells, there's a series of events that happen. Is the sign in the yard? Day 0. Is it fully on MLS and live? Day 0, right? As soon as they sign the listing agreement, it's on. 3 days later, enhance realtor.com to get some extra boost juice. Like, we don't do everything on day 0. We do the most critical things on day 0. 1 day after, so we have to wait for it to show up on all the websites. We have send the seller a first page of Google to show all the websites their house is already on. And it might be on the first 2 pages of Google. And we just send them that to say, we've already blasted your house out to the first 2 pages of Google. Now I put their address in. Of course, it's going to be on the first 2 pages of Google, but it's seeing all the different websites, right? So then some stuff happens at day 5. Day 14, 2 weeks after, if you're still on the market, you better get a letter that says, hey, everything's fully in place. You've been on the market for 2 weeks. It's time to recap, what marketing has happened. So we send them a realtor.com report that shows 50,000 people have seen their house online. So all that stuff's just buying their confidence. So that's why I use Top Producer, because it's completely customizable. Yet you got to be careful to not have it too automated. You got to have the personal touch in there for you to get into that 12-to-2 ratio versus 50-to-1. It's just that I'm just as busy. Like, when you think about those personal touches and you try to avoid them, I'm telling you what, guys, this thing right here will make you so much money with real estate agents. The more you can pick it up, the better. However, you at least need it to remind you to do it if it's been too long since the last one, and you got to follow that. So it makes me make calls every single day. And that's why my phone's ringing with 100 deals a year. So that business is coming back in. So Top Producer is a real estate related one. It can be used by anybody. You guys can go set up an account on it. It's $35 a month, pretty basic, and you can completely customize it. Move Home does have campaigns and action plans, but of course we're hearing all kinds of stuff that people are struggling with. And I think of the 14 that I've had all those too. I've had the Move Home so many times. I do know that I've been either able to trick it into doing what I needed it to do, which is capture the name, address, phone number, and start an action plan. That's all I care my database really, truly does. Anything else is extra. Like putting in all the listing information, all that stuff. I don't even care about that. It's getting the people in, telling me what to do next through the plans. That I've tricked every database into doing what I needed it to do, or I just didn't use it after I couldn't make it do what I needed it to do, which was make the personal touches. Like, so a lot of campaigns and action plans don't allow you to print to your printer. I cannot like put things into a PDF and do 10 extra steps just to get my letters in the mail. And I'm just not willing to sacrifice it. I mean, it is the big difference, because if I had to switch it all over to email because that was easier, I already know it's not going to work. So I hope that answered your question, Amber. All right, guys. Obviously, you all know how to get a hold of me if you have any other questions. I hope your brain is turned a little bit between the conversations you can have with the real estate agents and what you might bring to the next call on how you want to apply some of this stuff into your business. But, you know, one of the things there's a lot of things we have to do as a coach. We're organizing your time and your schedule to feel like you've got control of everything, but many of you are operating without a real true system, that the system is running your business. Gerber says, if you have a people-driven business, you're dealing with people. You're relying on the people to run your business, right? If you have a system-driven business that people manage the system, that's what Starbucks is. That's what McDonald's is. McDonald's has the beepers that go off when the burgers are done. They don't leave it to the guy's discretion to figure out when it's time to pick up the burgers, and or has him over dumping fries while the burgers are burning. You know, the beeper goes off, it has to come off the grill. So that's why those systems are important. But the challenge is, and it's not really a challenge. I mean, this is why I've taken all the extra training I have to be a coach, is to help you create those while we're adding new business, while we're adding in the relationships, while we're doing all the other stuff that you're working with, because you all have different challenges as well, that we have to get that base core in there, that base business stuff, so that it can make everything easier for you later on. All right, I look forward to working with you all. Congratulations, all you that were able to show up and catch some of this stuff. I would really love your feedback. brad.corn@movement.com. Let me know your feedback on it, what you liked, is 2 or 3 things you really liked about it. And if you have any questions on that as well. Otherwise, we'll let you guys get back to work and go make some money. Have a great day. See if there was any questions on the comments, if you guys had anything. All right. Yeah, somebody did ask, I don't know if she's still on here, is Move Home what we should be using? You know, if you don't have anything else, I would at least just feed in the 5 people a day, right? 5 people a day, just until you just can't stand it and it's too hard to even add in 5 people a day would be my response on that. If you can add in 5 people a day for the next month or 2, it'll get easier. And then we got to go to the next step. And what else do we need it to do? I think that's about the only question I see in there. All right, guys, tuning out.